In this video, we're going to write code responsible for editing an existing node. So again, to edit an existing node, we need to click on the node and then the text area will show up. And then whatever we write in the text area is going to become the new content of our node. Okay, now let's have a look at something. If you click on the edit button in the final app, okay, you'll be able to delete nodes. But if you click on a node, you won't see the text area. Okay, so we're going to need to do something in our code so that when we click on the node, we check whether we are in the edit mode or not. Because if you're not in the edit mode, then we'll be able to show the text area and edit our nodes. Otherwise, if we are in the edit mode, we won't be able to change the contents of the nodes. We'll only be able to delete the nodes if we want to. Okay, so now let's go to our code and write something corresponding to clicking on the nodes showing the text area. Okay, so I've put this inside the functions because later on we're going to write a function where we're going to place this. I'm going to show you why, okay? But for now, I'm going to do it the wrong way just to show you why it doesn't work, okay? So let's select all our nodes, okay? And tell the browser if the user clicks on a node, show the text area. So we are selecting all these nodes, so we need to find a common factor between them. We're not going to use an ID, but we're going to use a class. Okay, so the common class between all those nodes is nodes header. Okay, so you can check that in the load nodes file. We gave all those a class nodes header. All right. Now, if you click on a node, okay, the function we would like to run is as following. So first of all, we're going to check if we are in the edit mode. So to manage the edit mode, we're going to use a variable that we're going to call edit mode. So at the beginning, when we load the page, this is going to be false. Okay, so that variable is a boolean and it's set to false at the beginning, initially. All right. If you go to the edit mode, then that variable is going to become true. Okay. All right. So first we're going to check if we are not in the edit mode. Okay. So if opposite of edit mode. Okay. All right. So now we need to change the active node variable. Okay. Because if you want to edit that node, you need the ID of that node to be stored in the active node variable. So that when you start typing something, you can send that ID through the Ajax call, okay, to the update nodes file. We're going to use exactly the same file as for a new node. Okay, so let's update our active nodes variable. Okay. So where are you going to find? Are you going to find the ID of the nodes? So if you remember, when we loaded the nodes, we placed the ID of each node somewhere. We gave it as an ID. Okay, we placed it as an ID of the div itself. Okay, so that div has got an ID, which is the ID of that node. All right. So how do we get that ID? So we're gonna access the note itself, okay, using the keyword this. All right, so using this because we are already inside the same element, okay? We selected the same element. So then to get the ID, we're gonna use the attribute method, okay? And we're gonna give it as a parameter ID, simply. All right, so now we updated the active notes variable. Now we will need to fill the text area, this text area, with the content of our notes. So the content of the notes is the first div inside the containing div. Okay, so let's do this. So fill text area. So we're going to select the text area. So again, we're going to use the text area tag because we have only one text area. And then we're going to set its value to the content of the notes. So how do we find the content of the notes? So we're going to select the containing div, okay? And then we're going to look for the element of class text. Let me show you. So when we loaded the notes, okay, so this is the div, that's the div, the containing div is this one. So inside that div, we've got a couple of divs. So we want the content of the div of class text. All right, so to do that, we're gonna select our containing div using the keyword this again. All right, so using this because we are inside the same elements. And then we're gonna find the element of class text. So to do that, we're gonna use the method find, and we're gonna give it a parameter, the text class, like that. Okay, and once you find that element, you're gonna get the text of that element using the text method, just like this. Okay. All right, so again, so we select the containing div, we find the div of class text, which is this one, and that's the content of our notes, and then we get the text inside that element, and we fill the text area using that text. All right. Okay. Now you also want to show and hide certain elements. So this is going to be very similar to what we did when we clicked on add notes, basically. Okay. So let's go back to the add notes code and show hide the same elements. And then we're gonna focus inside the text area. Okay, so let's save and try our code. So if we refresh, so if I now click on any of these nodes, nothing will happen. Okay, exactly as expected. So I suggest you pause the video and find out why. Okay, all right, I hope that you paused the video and found what the problem was. So basically, the reason why this won't work is because we are calling a class which was loaded using Ajax. Okay, so let me try something different. So if I select instead of that class any div on our page, okay, so if I refresh the page and click on any div, then I'll see the text area. Okay. Now, let's go back to our original code and fix this. So the Ajax call which loaded these divs, okay, with this class notes header is this one. Okay, so this call was sent to load notes.php. All right, so basically what happens is, as you're going through the code, once you get to the Ajax call, the rest of the code is not gonna wait for the Ajax call to finish. Okay, so one way to avoid having this problem is to place this piece of code inside the Ajax call. So once the call is successful, then we do that, and then we execute this piece of code. Okay, an easy way of doing this is to place this code inside a function. So that's why we have a function click on a note. So let's call that function click on notes, and inside the function we just copy paste our code. Okay, just tidy up our code a little bit. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to call this function inside the Ajax call. So once the call is successful, we're going to call that function. Okay, so click on notes. All right, so now let's save and refresh, and let's try now. It works. And now it doesn't work anymore. Okay, so again, I suggest you pause the video and find out why. Okay, I hope you found what the problem was. Basically, once you land in the page like this, you use this Ajax call to load these notes. So now it's working. Now, if you click on all notes to go back to the list of notes, basically you're gonna use another piece of code, okay, which is clicking on all notes. Okay, let me find where that is. So it's this one. So basically we need to add the same function, or call the same function, inside the success parameter. Okay, so I'm going to call the function click on note again. Now let's save, refresh again. So that one is working. If I go back, it's still working. Okay, perfect. Now let's just make sure that the notes get edited successfully. So if I click on the first note, okay, just add a character there. Let's go to the database and refresh, and now you can see the change. Okay, that's the extra character that we've just added. Okay, all right, in the next video we're gonna see how we're gonna go to the edit mode and delete notes.